Hey, coffee and carving fans.
Today, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that we are leaving this platform, this particular channel, and moving the Coffee and Carving Show to my channel, right? So, yes.
We're moving the channel this week. Subscribe now.
Yes.
Bye.
Alec LaCasse. I'll put that in the description. Anyway.
Bye. I think he said bye.
Blake Lunsford.
Hey, what's going on, Alec? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate
Absolutely. Yeah, how are things in Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to warm up a little. We had a really warm week last week, and
Nice.
then it got bitter cold. We had snow on the ground a couple of days ago.
Really?
So
We
yeah, and it's finally coming back around.
we haven't had snow in Tennessee at all this year. Zero.
And how do you feel about that?
I'm good. It flurried a couple of days right at Christmas time. It was below zero temperatures, so I'm not crazy about that. But I'm happy that we didn't have to deal with driving in the snow.
Right.
Here, you never know if you're going to get 4 feet or 2 inches. One year from one year to the next is different, so you never know what you're going to get. But it's 83 degrees here today, and this weekend it'll be 40. So
Yeah.
it just kind of shows you what we deal with. But I'm ready for spring, ready for it to warm up.
It's going down to 40 this week?
Yeah. There's a cold front coming in tomorrow. And so Saturday it's supposed to rain all day, and it's going to be in the 40s, and then it'll warm back up Monday, I think, to somewhere in the 70s. So
Okay.
it's typical spring weather. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of all over the place for us too. So
Yep. But I'm definitely ready for spring, ready for it to warm up.
man, Tennessee is fantastic. I mean, the weather in Tennessee seems to be in the spring and fall, kind of where it's cold here. It seems to be just the right amount.
Yeah,
Warmer.
we're pretty fortunate to get all 4 seasons. So spring and fall, it stays between 60 and 70, which is not bad. If it would stay that way all year round, I'd be happy. But, we'll get close to 100 probably in the summer. And like I said, it can be all the way down to 0 in the winter. So it's all over the place.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I love it here. You get fall, you get all the colors and the leaves and stuff like that. So.
Which is huge. The seasons, personally, I wouldn't want to live anywhere that you had just sort of the same temperature all year round.
Yeah. I think about people like out in Arizona where it's warm all the time, or somebody up in Alaska where it's freezing cold, which I know it's not that way all the time in Alaska, but most of the time it is. So
Right.
Yeah. I like having different seasons. It's nice.
Yeah.
What have you been,
for sure.
What have you been carving? What's going on?
What have I been carving?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I've been doing less carving this week than I have in a while, because mostly I've been, I feel like just putzing around making shorts. I've been trying to get a little bit more regimented about getting everything done for YouTube in one day.
Right.
And then I decided to take on the project of redoing my shop wall here, paint color, changing that around. So
right.
That's taken up the last couple of days, 3 days, and then doing YouTube stuff. But I've done quite a few, a handful of warm up carvings in the last couple of weeks. They're just like little bark things,
Yeah.
That's mostly what I've been up to. Working on a little a clay thing here and there. Touched on that last week. Working on the book. Yeah, not a lot of not as much carving as I'd like, to be honest.
Are you still doing warm up videos in the mornings? I saw somewhere where you posted that you were trying to do that every day, so I didn't know how.
I know. Yeah. I know. So I keep recording the videos, but I don't actually end up putting them out, because it's funny when you start making that many videos.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's a lot of editing. So
yeah.
I've got a backlog. So what I'm starting to do, that's exactly what the YouTube shorts are. I'm just taking the videos that I'm making from the daily carves and throwing them up on shorts.
Yeah.
Making a little clip.
Yeah, I told somebody not long ago, they were asking why I don't do as many YouTube videos as I was doing at one point. And they don't understand the editing part, and it's not just a matter of recording and sticking it out there. Especially if you're doing like a demonstration and there's multiple parts to it. You got to tie all that stuff together and make sure that it's seamless, and you got to put all the titles and hashtags and all the stuff to it. So it's a little more than just standing and carving. It's
Yeah.
It's work. It's more work than what people realize. So.
It is, because then when you're editing a video, you're uploading the video to the editor, and then you have to offload it. All these things, it's a waiting thing,
Right.
Waiting for stuff to happen. And it's just enough time. It's idle time where you can't really get a carving done. You can't you can barely run and get a coffee and come back, and things happen where you have to, press OK, or else your whole video isn't going to, render or whatever. It's just like you're kind of hovering around a computer for a few hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's the other part, is remembering to press record. I'm the host on this the International Association of Woodcarvers meetings, and not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we had Van Kelly on, and
did you really?
Great. We had a great meeting. Van does YouTube videos, and we had a great meeting, full of content, a lot of good information. His video quality was excellent. And we got to the end of the meeting and got ready to render the meeting, and for some reason, the recording didn't happen. And so, you have all this great quality content out there that you think you capture, and for some reason it doesn't happen, and you're strictly relying on technology to do what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't always happen. So, it's a little disappointing. That. Yeah.
It's funny, people. To relate to that, that's a huge bummer. I did a bunch of podcast recordings for my first ever attempt at a podcast called the Alec LaCasse Show.
Yep.
And I was I was interviewing people, I don't know, 2 or 3 a week, it felt like, and I was getting a few big names. And what happened was I didn't back up my cloud. And so I wasn't able to access most of the live streams.
Yeah.
I kept building a bank, right?
Right.
And when I went back on Zoom, I don't know what had happened to my Zoom, if my account was canceled or reduced or something, or my card expired or whatever it was. I wasn't able to get these videos. So I had been running into carvers at events and being like, I'm sorry, I know our interview wasn't great. We'll do it another time.
Right.
People just embarrassed, and I'm trying to explain to them, no, it's me. It's not you.
Yeah. No, we've experienced the same problem with Zoom. I think they only provide you with a certain amount of space to record. So if you don't go in and clear that stuff out as you go, and you think you have this backlog, all of a sudden it's not capturing it because you don't have enough room. So
that's exactly what that's what it was.
That was part of the learning curve for us, is make sure you go in when you add a meeting, then remove a couple so that you make sure that you got space for the next one, or you'll lose it. So that may have been what happened this past weekend. But yeah, that's technology. It's great when it works, and it's horrible when it doesn't. So
that's true.
Yeah, sometimes we're at the mercy of whatever happens, and just have to roll with it. But on the flip side, we are pretty fortunate to be able to do it live. So the 120, 150 people that are in there live, they at least get to see the content as it's happening, and
so cool.
Seems to work out well. So
who came up with the idea for that?
Well. Let me tell you the backstory. There's a little backstory to it. My friend Tom Bate, which Tom, he runs the daily wood carving Instagram page. He and I chatted back and forth on Instagram quite a bit, just talking about carving, and kind of he was learning, and I was posting stuff on a regular basis, and so he'd ask me questions, and I'd try to answer them. And we were talking about furthering carving and what we could do to share, some of the content and stuff that we were talking about. And we came to the conclusion, he was kind of big into podcasts. So we thought, well, maybe we should form a podcast and just record these things, put them out on Podbean or something like that. And that way it captures the stories, and we kind of, at least have a back library of things that we've talked about.
Right.
Well, right around that time, and that was probably March of 2020, COVID hit and basically shut everything down. And Tom and I were still talking about the idea of having a podcast. And I went to him, with work. We kind of shut everything down. Everybody went home, but we were continuing to work remotely. Some of it was done through Zoom. And I went to Tom and I said, hey, Tom, the goal is and has always been to try to help grow the carving community. So why don't we have a podcast, but have it virtually through Zoom, and let's have live people come on and watch the meetings and have presenters and talk about carving, and, just kind of see where it goes. So I offered that suggestion up to him. He says, well, do you think we can get people on? And I said, well, I know a few people that might be willing to come on and try to get it going. So let me reach out to a few people and see if we can do that. Little did we know that was going to be the beginning of this, big thing that, through time and effort, we're coming up on 3-year anniversary. We've had 130 odd meetings. We've had presenters all across the world that's come on and presented. You've been on, 3 or 4 times, and we really we give credit to the presenters, because without the presenters, we have no meeting. So we have all of these carvers that have donated their time to come out and do demonstrations and talk about carving and share tips and show techniques, and at no profit of their own outside of us just promoting those people and promoting what they do and sharing classes and sharing, if they have rough outs or whatever, we share all that stuff. But that's kind of what it's spiraled into. We did have a good friend of mine, Larry Green, at the beginning of all this that I was talking to about it. And, Larry was like, well, hey, through work, I have a subscription to Zoom. Larry's been around. He's probably carved 50 years. He's been around the carving world as long as I can remember. And he said, I have a subscription to Zoom. I'll just let you use it. So that was the very beginnings. Was Larry gave us a Zoom. It all kind of fell in place. Larry was actually our first presenter. So he said, not only will I'll give you the Zoom, I'll come on and present for you. And we'll try to get this thing going. And, from there, we just continue to reach out to people and try to keep ahead of the schedule so that we have plenty of people booked up and can share who's coming on. And it's turned out to be a really good thing. It's, the plan initially was just to share carving during COVID, to grow the community, because we knew that everything was shutting down, classes weren't being held, clubs weren't getting together, shows were being canceled, and it was an opportunity to try to hold the community together and to meet when people couldn't get in touch, and it couldn't get together in person. So, I feel like it's been a good thing, but now that COVID's kind of come and gone, we're continuing because we feel like that we're providing a good service to the community. So,
no doubt, man. I mean, we're also people getting a little window, an hour window into somebody's life, a carver's life.
Yeah.
And in a day and age where it's kind of actually, it's not clear to me yet if carving is actually growing or shrinking or static or what's happening to it in the United States.
Yep.
But what I do know is that there's not a lot of resources available. I mean, even just like today, Googling wood carving, trying to find like history of wood carving in the US. I mean, like timelines, popularity of wood carving, trying to learn about like what wood carving has looked like here in the States. There's just not a lot of information. There's not a lot of resources, really. And so it's a huge deal to be able to have this video, kind of backlog of content, that looks into the lives of these carvers. And it's super entertaining. I enjoy listening to them, and tuning in, is a delight, man. Because where else are you gonna get to meet Raymond Kinman without actually meeting him?
That's it. I mean, we've been able to, we have a guy this weekend. He's a Disney artist. He actually has been on a part of 9 Disney movies. And outside of wood carving, I would never have the opportunity to meet this guy, but I met him this past week on Zoom. He's coming on this Saturday and tying together animation and character design and transitioning it through wood carving, and kind of how he uses his work to do what he does to relax, which is carve. And he's a phenomenal carver, but I would never have that opportunity outside of just this platform. So it's pretty neat to be able to link up with guys like Raymond, to meet those guys and hear from them and actually interact with them and talk to them and hear their stories. So yeah, it's pretty neat. One of the things that Tom and I talked about in the beginning was we also need to capture history. So we need to capture these stories of some of these carvers that, are getting up in age. And, we want to make sure that even after they're gone, that people are able to come back and hear from those guys and get instruction from them and be able to hear how something like the CCA started, or, hear about people in Branson, Missouri, and, how long carving's been going on there. So there's a lot of history through these meetings that we've tried to capture. And I know you're doing the same thing with meeting some of the people that you have on your show, and try to capture some of those journeys and the history of wood carving, and, what got people started. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you start carving? What got you into it?
So it's funny. I went to, and a lot of people maybe don't know about this place. It's like Silver Dollar City, but I went to Dollywood, which is in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's within an hour and a half of where I live now. So it's kind of the local amusement park here. Went down there, and they've got a carving shop inside of the park. And so there was a guy in there that I walked into the shop, and he was back there carving, and he was making spirit faces. And I just went back there and watched him, and, thought, well, that's cool. I don't know if I could ever do that. That's pretty neat. And of course, he started talking to us and said, I teach classes here on weekends. It's a 3-day class. You come on Friday and you stay through Sunday. You'll complete 3 full carvings in the 3 days. And he said, you'll be able to produce great pieces. And I thought, well, okay, well, that's a cool idea, and didn't really think anything about it. Probably 2 months later, went back down there, and he was there again, and talked to him some more. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to sign up for this. Just, if nothing else, I can take the class and learn something. It'll be fun. And so I went to the class, completed the carvings, came home, did nothing. Didn't pick it back up. When my wife became pregnant, she's a type 1 diabetic, so she's insulin dependent, on an insulin pump. When she was pregnant, she was taking a bunch of shots throughout the day to try to keep her sugar down. She was trying to stay under tight control. And, it's one of those things where they've got to make sure that everything stays in range so it doesn't affect the growth of the baby and stuff like that. So she rested a lot, slept a lot. And I needed to find something to do with my time while she was there resting. So I thought at that point, maybe I can pick carving back up. That would be something that I can do here in the house, be here with her, make sure that I help, take care of her throughout her pregnancy. And got involved with Wood Carving Illustrated. They had a forum online. And again, that was one of the early days, the Wood Carving Illustrated forum. Got on there, met some somewhat local guys that told me about these shows. So there's a show in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's one in Hickory, North Carolina. They're like, hey, you're close. You ought to come to these shows, meet up with some of these guys. And, we'll show you, we'll help you. We'll try to get you involved. So through that, I met guys like Gene Messer. He used to come to those shows.
Did he really?
Yeah. Arnold Smith. I don't know if you know Arnold, but he's been carving a long time. Met him through the message board. Just some longtime carvers that are great friends of mine that have kind of helped me along the way. Dwayne Gosnell, Bart Wilson, Alan Goodman, some of these guys that you hear their names all the time. All those guys come to this show now, like Mitch Cartledge and Kevin Applegate, some of these guys that are well-known carvers, they were all at these shows. So I got to meet these guys that kind of encouraged me and showed me the way, and have been doing it ever since. So I base how long I've been carving off of the age of my daughter. She just turned 18, so it's right around a little bit more than 18 years, and I've fallen in love with caricature carving. Have done everything I can do to try to better my skills and improve. And, it's always a work in progress. So constantly learning and trying to do new things. So it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Somebody said on YouTube that you are the biographer of Santa Claus, like you're the official biographer of Santa Claus. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I tried to put out a good video where people can at least, if you've never carved a Santa, you can go out there and at least follow along and get something that resembles Santa. And hopefully that encourages you to do better.
Right.
I may at some point go back and redo that video series because I do them different now than I did then. But I've learned and I've changed and stuff. So it's fun. But I've also tried to branch out. You know, when you first get started, you kind of fall in love with one particular thing. And I did a lot of Santas early. But I'm trying to do caricature and stuff now and try to get into full bodies and movement and, you know, monsters and stuff like that. And, you know, just try to branch out so you're not known for just one thing and you just are in one lane.
Right.
So yeah, that's anybody who says that, I appreciate that so much, because at least that means that what I put into those series kind of pays off.
For sure, it has. Absolutely, it has. Do you have a, remind me of your career outside of carving?
Yeah, so I work for the Virginia Department of Social Services.
Ah,
I'm a court and establishment supervisor for child support enforcement.
wow.
So if you ever watch the Jerry Springer show and they come on and they say, "You are the dad," that's kind of what we do in real life.
Wow.
Yeah, so I cover 13 counties in Southwest Virginia. I've got 13 employees that work for me, and that's what we do. Is we obligate parents to take care of their kids. We establish paternity so that a child knows who their dad is, and we make sure that that they're taken care of. So
that's great.
Carving is a great relief, a great stress
guess.
relief for me. It's a good outlet to try to escape some of that stuff, because sometimes it gets a little sticky. So.
Oh goodness, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
It has to be intense. Social work in general, I know, as a category, it can be a really challenging line of work.
Yeah, Virginia kind of separated child support out just because there's so many cases. You know, there's all other types of social services, but child support is kind of its own animal or whatever. And you know, we have about 13,000 cases that we deal with, and you know, Southwest Virginia is kind of a rural area, so there's not a lot of job opportunity, which makes it tough for people to financially care for their kids. And that's not an excuse. It's just sometimes it makes it tough.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're on the border there then?
Yeah, I actually live in Bristol, Tennessee. So I live in Tennessee, but work in Virginia.
Yep.
Bristol is known for three things. State Street. There's a street that runs down the middle of Bristol that Virginia's on one side, Tennessee's on the other. Bristol's known for the Bristol Motor Speedway, which is one of the most popular NASCAR tracks on the circuit. I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, but have gone a bunch with the job that I used to have. We had to go quite a bit.
Okay.
So it's known for that. And then people don't really realize it, but Bristol is the birthplace of country music.
You're kidding.
Everybody thinks it's Nashville, but the original country music recordings was done right here in Bristol, and they now have a museum downtown that's the birthplace of country music, and it's well known for that. So
the Carter family must have been involved in some capacity.
Carter family, the Carter fold is probably, I don't know, 35 minutes from my house.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they still have live shows over there, and that's where the Carters and Johnny Cash would go over there quite a bit and play. And
wow,
a lot of that old time country music type stuff is still around now. It's shifted more towards like bluegrass and stuff like that. But originally, you know, the Carter family was big in getting country music started. So, and you being a music guy, you know, that might be interesting to you. You should. Look up birthplace of country music and check out Bristol.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Bristol. I'm putting that in now. Bristol.
And then when you roll through Bristol, you can yell at me and come by and see me.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I tell this story to people. I've basically hated country music to the extent that it was truly country, right? So you hear this a lot. You hear people saying, you know, I don't really like country, but some of the modern stuff is okay. You know, I just don't like that ding, 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 you know, that twangy sound.
Yeah.
And I held that, you know, as a teenager and as an adult, that, you know, the occasional country song is good. There's some great guitar playing in country, but I'm not going to listen to country music.
Right.
And I went on a trip. I won't malign his good name, but the owner of a big kind of coffee roastery in this area and I went to visit his sister, who was a professional musician and playing one of her first real gigs at the City Winery in Tennessee, and a bunch of people, managers, music managers were there, and so they were amped about it. And so we went down and we visited her, and one of the things that happened on the way there, the 8-hour drive, was that two things I remember. He didn't replace. He had winter tires on his car, so it was the middle of summer. And I mean, if you've ever been in a small sedan with really, like big chunky winter tires,
right,
it's just so loud.
Oh yeah.
So to compensate for that, he had to keep the volume of the radio up, like it seemed like to max levels. And he had a CD collection, which was Hank Williams' 250 song CD set of his complete works. And I'll tell you, there wasn't a moment where he asked what I wanted to listen to. I mean,
right.
It was just Hank Williams the whole way there,
yeah,
and the whole way back. And I was miserable. I mean, I was like, what are we doing? This is awful music. Why are we listening to Hank Williams? And then coming back, the same thing. It was just, I was just completely ticked off. And I mean, it was just not my thing. And I remember just a few months later, a buddy of mine invited me to visit him in Raleigh, and I drove up there, and I got to the mountains, and something popped in my head. It was like, what kind of fit the vibe right now? Is
Hank Williams.
Hank Williams.
Right.
So I threw some Hank Williams on, and ever since then, huge fan of Hank Williams' early country.
Yeah.
Talk about the Carter family, all that is just, always appreciated Johnny Cash, of course, but getting back to the roots, it's like that music was good.
Right.
It was just good.
Well, and funny story, that's I guess the fourth thing that Bristol's known for. The last place, apparently, and this may be a story, but you can probably go in and research it. The last place that Hank Williams was seen alive.
You're kidding.
Was in Bristol, Tennessee, at the Burger Bar down off of State Street. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, that they're well known for that. That place is still open too, and that's they've got old newspaper clippings and stuff on the wall about that in the restaurant. So, not sure what happened after that, but yeah, that was supposed to be the last place he was seen getting in his car leaving, and he died right after that. So,
if I'm not mistaken, he had. I might be confusing him with someone else, but I thought he had a back injury.
Yeah,
and then he was self-medicating. He was drinking a lot. I don't know what he was taking, but I thought that he died of an overdose of some kind.
Yeah, that's right.
Young.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Bristol, you can come and eat at the last place that Hank Williams ate at.
See, that's something I would genuinely be into. Like, that'd be a feature. I'd drive an extra bit out of the way for that.
Yeah, and then just go around the corner to the birthplace of country music, and they've got it set up. The Smithsonian recognized it, so they've got it set up with all the old records and all the old recordings and old videos and stuff like that. So and they actually do live shows there now too. So you can sign on to YouTube and look up Bristol Sessions or Birthplace of Country Music and see some of the live recordings that they're doing there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a big music fan, so it's it's right up my alley. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I mean, I think about Hank. I mean, all these years later, it's just he's such a mythic person, so prolific.
Right.
I mean, the guy wrote. I mean, the fact that he has a 254 odd or whatever, 250 something odd song discography at the age of what is it? Early 30s. I think he passed.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when people it's hard to fully comprehend until you've actually tried to write a song.
Right.
And even writing a simple song, for it to be good.
Yeah.
The best writers in country right now, you look at, name anyone. The general thing is 1 out of every 10 songs, if you're lucky, is a good song.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what Chris Stapleton is saying. So a lot of folks are saying, and it's like, how many songs the guy had to write? I mean, 2,500 songs to get 250 good ones. It's a prolific artist.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I had the luxury, I guess you call it luxury, of seeing his grandson. So I've seen Hank Jr. and I've also seen Hank the Third in person.
Really, that would be interesting.
Yeah, there's a little festival in Virginia, just where I'm from, Abingdon, where I was born.
Yeah.
And they had Hank III come there years ago. It was a long time ago, but I was amazed, and you could close your eyes and listen, and I was amazed at how much he sounded like Hank Sr.
Wow.
Like the whole twang, the whole sound that he had, it was amazing. You know, Hank Jr. kind of took his own path and got his own style and stuff, but Hank III, when he's not playing his rockabilly stuff, sounds a ton like Hank Sr. So,
wow.
Yeah, if you go out and listen to some of his stuff and the stuff that he did along the lines of Hank Sr., you'll be amazed at how close he sounds. So, yeah. So,
see, I wasn't aware that he did that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I know he did this sort of like rockabilly rap kind of off the wall kind of stuff, but never heard him do the country singing.
Back when he was first, I don't know if it was right when he was first breaking in, but they did an album called The Three Hanks. And on that album, some of the Hank III stuff on there sounds just like Hank Sr.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can go out and check that out. Just a little musical tidbit for you there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no, that's cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah.
Definitely will. Bristol, Tennessee, huh?
Yep. The there's a video out too on YouTube, and I'm referring you to all these YouTube videos of the last time. I don't know if it was the last time that Johnny Cash played or the last time Johnny Cash played at the Carter Fold. That video's out there, and you can see how feeble and old and stuff he looked, but how well he sound even in his last days. And that again, it was just just right over the hill. It's not far from here, so he would come in.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Yeah, he would come into town, and it'd just be like he was home because he had always been around the Carters there. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I had no idea about the Bristol area. So it's very cool.
Yeah, another thing we do, there's a big music festival here. They close off State Street, and they have like 19 stages. It's in September. It's a music festival called Rhythm and Roots, and they usually have 5 or 6 big acts, and then they have some lesser known acts that come into town, and some people like Sturgill Simpson has come to Bristol and played, and it was before he became huge, and the Mumford and Sons have come and played in Bristol, and all these groups that you would think, why would they ever come to small town Bristol? But it's because of the fact that everything kind of comes back to Bristol, so it's pretty neat.
Wow,
yeah, it's
really cool
place to be from.
I guess so. How about that?
Yeah, how about that? But we're here to talk about carving. So.
Yeah. People's eyes are just going cross right now.
Like,
people that aren't into music.
What are these guys talking about? They're not even talking about wood carving.
But who cares?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Tell me what
I don't care
what
they think anyway.
What are you doing with your shop there behind you?
Yeah. Oh, I just painted it black is all. I have this extra paint from the exterior of my house. All the buildings in my on the property, there's the sauna, the house, and the workshop separate. Painted them this kind of black color.
Right.
And it's called Fox Black.
Yep.
I think they had to mix in a little bit of red. Something about the pigment black is not very resilient to, I think it's just because it attracts heat and sunlight. Yeah. So they had to add some other colors to it. So this is an outdoor paint. And it's cool. It helps. It kind of absorbs the light a little bit. Yeah. So it makes the carvings kind of separate or stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Does it help you as far as being able to see better when you're carving, or is it just more for aesthetics when you're displaying stuff?
No, for sure. I mean, like carving, lighting is super important in carving, right? I mean, the first and most important thing is that you have good light in a space that you're carving in. Yeah. I've just talked to a buddy, Brian Melton and I were chatting, and he was saying that he had done a carving. And he was complaining about the fact that, in this lighting, it looks really good in the down lighting in his shop, but then he takes it outside and he said it didn't like the way it looked. Yeah. And I related to that because for 9 years, I would carve in this dingy, dark little garage. I mean, a big garage. It was my dad's 40 by 60 pole barn. Wow. And then with no windows, and I'd take it outside and I would just be like, this is what I got, This looks like crap.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I set up this space down here for our meeting, so I got carvings and stuff back here. But one of the things I told my wife when I moved down here, I said I've got to have good light, so we put in like 19 of those LED can lights, and I don't know if you can tell,
Yep.
it's like bright as
Oh
the
yeah.
sun.
It's
But
really bright.
yeah, you drive up, to the house at night, and the house is glowing because I'm down here carving and I've got so many lights going on. But I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
If you can't see, then you don't really know if you're missing something or if you're cutting the wrong thing or whatever. So
Right.
setting up a space is real important to make sure that you got the right lighting. I've learned
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So that was part of it, is having lots of windows and stuff. That way, I've got light coming from different directions.
Right.
But then I painted the room white, and the cinematographer, this video guy, I mean, he works, his living comes from making videos for advertisers, and he, in film, and he said, this is great, the light is great, but you have to control the light.
Yeah.
And he said, you have to either put something over your windows or paint a wall black, or both, because it's hard to control light in a room that has tons of windows and is all white.
Yeah.
There's light's bouncing off of everything, and it's like beauty light.
Right.
There's no shadows at all. So there's no drama, I guess is what he would say.
Yeah.
There's no like strong shadows. So this definitely helps, kind of, make it a little bit less, reflect, a little bit, it's a little bit less distracting, the
Right.
background. So when I'm carving here, I feel like I've only done a little bit of carving here, but it is easier just to focus on the project at hand. So
yeah, I learned when we were putting lights in, and you can probably tell right up here. I put lights right down the wall, and I thought, well, that would at least show the carvings. But then I didn't realize the reflection that you would get off the wall, and the fact that it's not really the greatest idea to put it right on the wall.
Right.
So we put sliders in for our dimmers, I guess, for the lights, so that when I'm having meetings or whatever, I can dim it down, and got a backlight here behind the behind the iPad that I can cut on and kind of get the right light for the meetings. But yeah, you learn all that stuff. You learn what lighting you need. Videos, YouTube videos, you got to have the right lighting so that people can see what it is you're doing and stuff. And that's all a work in progress, because nobody teaches you to do that. So yeah. And
what it is, I guess, is when the analogy is like when you're carving and you into the light, right? Like if your face is directly in the light, you can't, like right now, this is good lighting for a carving reference photo because there's lots of shadows.
Yep.
And this, Blake, but when you have an angle light coming down onto a carving or a face, you can see the dimension.
Yeah.
Right. You can't really, if you have a light going square coming from every different direction on your face, a perfect light, it's hard to see the depth of everything.
Yeah.
So it is nice to have some control of the light where it's coming from. So a word to people building a studio: windows are good, just get blinds.
That's right. Yeah, be able to control it.
Or curtains.
Right.
Yeah, get curtains
for sure.
Better yet.
Yeah, and nobody teaches you that stuff when you get started. You're just like, oh, I got a block of wood and a knife, I'm going to go at it. But then you don't realize,
exactly.
I got to be able to see what I'm doing, or it's not going to turn out great. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
what's your plans on? I noticed you were doing some caricature type stuff. You did Santa. You did a lighthouse and some of that kind of stuff in basswood. Are you going to do any more of that? Or are you going to stick mostly with cottonwood bark?
I miss it. No, I miss it because the basswood carvings, there's something to, it goes back to this thing I heard on a podcast years ago. There was a researcher, apparently this school, I think it was an art school, that divided up their students in half, their graduating class. And they said to one half, you guys make a masterpiece. I mean, you're gonna put all the time that you have before the semester ends making the best thing that you possibly can. And then the rest of the group, you guys are going to make as many carvings, as many paintings or sculptures or whatever as you can. Volume. So if you can make 100 things, make 100 things. And then at the end of that semester, they pulled the students and said, tell us what you're satisfied with and what you're not. And the people on the volume side produced tons of carvings or paintings, rather. I keep saying carvings. They were way happier with their stuff than the people who were putting all this time into one dedicated thing.
Right.
And there's something about the smaller scale, being able to get something done in less time. You know, that's not to say that small things are always faster,
Sure. Right.
because you can put detail
Right.
into a small thing, and that can prolong the process of carving hours and hours and
Oh
hours.
yeah. Yeah.
But for the most part, you know, the style of kind of like you're saying caricature or whittling, where you're kind of trying your best to simplify forms,
Right.
that's something you can do pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it's so rewarding. I mean, you can sit down for a couple of hours or an hour, and you've got something that just makes people happy, as
Right.
happy as any realistic or happier.
Right.
And so I've definitely, you know, come to see the light in that. And I like both camps. You know, I like the realism stuff. I like the caricature stuff.
So do you think you do more of the realism stuff for shows and, you know,
Yep.
different art exhibits and stuff like that, and you do maybe the
Yep.
caricature stuff just for you to relax, or do you also go
Yep.
and try to sell those as well?
No, I don't think I will, because I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll bring a few to a show and just, you know, whatever, throw them at kids or offer them to people who want
Right.
them for
Right.
a low price, you know.
Yeah,
But
kids love giveaways, so anytime you can,
yeah,
you know, throw something in, that gets their parents, you know, interested. So
it's true.
yeah.
No, it's true, and I've done it before with the more time consuming stuff, but you know, that's a bigger commitment. But
Yeah.
so yeah, it's I haven't really thought about it that way, but I guess it is kind of a break from doing, you know, looking at Fred Coggelo. There's a
Yep.
great example of a guy who, I mean, otherworldly realism kind of like he'll do these scenes that are in basswood that are just like vividly realistic and amazing.
Yep.
I mean, it looks like you could reach into the scenes. Um, you know, he did this one of a couple of guys in a horse stable, and you can see like the rope hanging behind the horse. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
the all the elements of the horses. You know, whatever, his leather straps, everything perfectly rendered. And then he'll sit down. You know, I've seen him at these carving shows, and he'll just make a little caricature.
Yeah.
And it seems to be enjoying that as much or more
Right.
than he is probably sitting in his shop alone for hours with this pressure of
Right.
making these really realistic things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's room for both.
Well, and I asked that because my wife and I were just talking yesterday. I told her, I said, you know, maybe in the fall or closer to Christmas, I'd like to do a show. You know, I don't do a lot of shows. I don't really sell much.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of carve them and hold on to them. I said, I'd like to do a show, but I wondered if, you know, if bigger stuff would do better. I can do wood spirits and stuff like that, or if because I do primarily caricature, if I should just stick to my lane and just take those things and, you know, I guess try to communicate to people how much time it takes to sit and do something like that. That it's not something just because it's small. You know, this guy, I can almost hold. It's the one I posted recently. I don't know if you can see it. It takes me as long to do something that size as it does something this size, which is a little bigger. You know. But I wondered for a show or for you know, some kind of art show or whatever, if it would be better to have big stuff, or if it's cool just to take the smaller stuff and just say, you know, this is my lane. So
yeah. I mean, it's tough because, you know, what you like to do is ultimately what you should do.
Yeah.
If you know, but if you're trying to like prioritize or like move towards selling, it does help to have big stuff just to draw people into your tent. Just even one large thing in the back of your tent, so that when people are walking by, because the problem is this, it's like the sardine can effect. You know, people get packed tight and they're walking through the street during daytime in the sun, and they're just kind of skimming to see if anything's interesting. And when you've got a lot of little things in a booth, from a distance, it just looks like you got a bunch of specks in your
it makes sense, right?
So having a couple of those, like that Frankenstein would kill.
Yeah.
I mean, you would just sell the crap out of the stuff like in that size range, but
Right.
even having some things that are bigger than that would be helpful. I mean, that's why I like to do ultimately art shows is why I started making the bigger stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
To get something that is more substantial, and people just are more. I don't know what it is. People in the United, it's dumb Americans. We like big things.
Right.
You know.
Right.
People always come up to me because I mainly work in smaller stuff, and they say, you know, man, one day you should do a giant carving. you know, and it's like, yeah, I probably will one day.
Yeah, I should do that one
Yeah.
day when I have time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a guy, Jeff May, that's coming on. He's a chainsaw carver, and that's what he does primarily is the big stuff. But he says the same thing, that that the bigger stuff captures the attention, and
Yep.
for somebody like that does chainsaw carving, it's a man. I never thought about it until he said this in our meeting one time. Was it's a matter of stamina too. That you're holding a chainsaw and you're having
Yep.
to hold this chainsaw for over an extended period of time to try to make
Yep.
these huge carvings or whatever. And people don't realize the amount of work that goes into it. It's not just a matter of just whittling a little bit. It's physical labor. So to get
It
into the
is.
big stuff, it's a little more demanding. It's a little harder on the body. So
True.
yeah,
Man, it's a relaxing thing to sit and carve,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
hand stuff, but
right,
it can be a lot of work. Yeah, I was telling my brother that I was driving back from a project. I've talked about it before, but this guy thought he had cottonwood trees. And for those of you that don't know, cottonwood's like on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest, it's like a 3, a
yeah,
2. I mean, it's soft wood to carve.
yeah,
Anything in the poplar family is pretty soft. And so I got there, I was super excited, you know, because they call it poor man's basswood.
right.
And I'm thinking this is going to be a chainsaw carving, but this is going to be a piece of cake. You know, I'm just going to power right through it all. And I get to the place and I'm looking at the bark and I'm thinking, yeah, I could see why he thought cottonwood, but the leaves are like little and there's a bunch of them and they're kind of like in a row.
Right.
And so I go on my phone and I'm looking around on different trees and I find out that the tree is the hardest wood in North America.
Wow.
It's black locust. And so I'm telling the guy, you know, we can still do this, but it's going to take a lot more time.
Right.
I mean, it's going to take twice the time that we thought it would.
Yeah.
And so I just remember leaving his house, just like all shooken up from, 8 or 9 hours of chainsaw carving that wood. It was like carving rock.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it would fight you back, you could feel every chip that chainsaw took, it reverberated into the handle. It's just not as much fun to carve wood like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
I told him on the upside, that's going to stay for a
Sure.
long time. That's a more permanent.
Yeah.
You can bury a piece of lignum vitae. That's a hilarious slip because that's one of the hardest woods in the world. But you can bury a piece of black locust and underground for 100 years and pull it out, and it's going to be there. I mean,
Wow.
it stays.
Yeah.
It's rot resistant. So, but just the fight it's almost not worth it.
So did you finish that one, or did you?
Yeah, he commissioned 3 carvings
Wow.
for me. 3, like an owl that was, I don't know, 3.5 feet tall. A face that was probably, I don't know, 2-3 times life size, and then another face. So anyway,
Yeah.
I did finish that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Anyway,
that's one of those commission jobs. It makes you wonder why you do commissions, because
it's true.
sometimes
Yeah.
you get thrown into something that you're not prepared for, and then you're like, not sure if
Yeah.
I want to tackle this or not. But
Yep. A 4-day project became a 12-day project.
yeah, it's hard to back out once you've already committed. So
Exactly,
Yeah.
man. It's so common with commissions where it's like, I can see why artists out there live and they just don't take them.
right.
I don't want to take an order because I want to make what I want. It's like,
Yeah.
if you can figure that out, power to you.
Right. Right.
The only downside is you might not be as like, not you particularly, but people might not be as adventurous as the commissioners will be. So,
Yeah, that's true.
you might get somebody giving you some off the wall idea that would force you into a spot you're not used to
Yeah.
being in. And that's
Yeah.
good.
It can be good. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it can push you out of your comfort level too, or comfort zone,
Yeah.
I guess. And
Yeah.
that can be good and bad. Either you're getting into something that you can't do, or you get into something that you didn't know you could do, and it actually furthers your skills. So that's always a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many chainsaw carvings do you do as compared to hand carved stuff?
Yeah. I'll answer that. Let me grab my charger. My laptop's dying here.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
talk while I'm grabbing it.
Cool.
Typically the the chainsaw stuff is seasonal for us in Michigan. I'm not doing a lot indoors,
Right.
chainsaw wise. So I'm doing, maybe I'm doing, let's say, I don't know, 10 a year or less. Sometimes, some years I might do, 15. Probably last year I did something close to, I don't know, 15 or so chainsaw carvings. But I'm doing way more than that. I'm probably doing 10 or I don't know, between 5 and 10 times more hand carvings than I am chainsaw.
Right.
So
Do you ever? And that sounds like I'm interviewing.
yeah, I know.
Do you ever travel?
Stop that.
Do you ever travel to do jobs like that? And the reason I asked,
Chainsaw?
let me tell you why I asked. First of all, sometimes in our meetings or after the meetings, we'll have somebody that comes on. And they're like, "Oh, I've got this. I'd like to have this owl carved in this tree that's in our front yard. Do you know anybody that can do it?" And so, not long ago, I had to refer a lady to somebody else that I knew. But I thought, well, if I knew somebody that could do it and would be willing to travel, depending on how far it is, I could just, call them up and say, "Hey, if you want this job, it's yours," or whatever. But do you travel a certain distance, or do you try to keep stuff mostly close by?
Yeah, this year has been a stay-at-home year.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to live the Dave Stetson life for a year, just to
there
see,
you go. Right.
teach from home, work from home.
Right.
But next year I'll be moving around, back to usual. Maybe not quite as much as I did last year, but
Gotcha.
yeah, it kind of took a toll on my health. But really, it wasn't the traveling; it was my health to begin with. So I'm working on improving that, and I'll be back to it. But it depends on the project. I might take a traveling project if I was able to.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily poo-poo it right away.
Sure. But. Well, and I don't recall where she was from, but it's always good for me to kind of have that in my back pocket in case somebody asks. I can at least make a referral. And I would rather refer somebody to somebody I know is going to do a good job than just say, well, here's somebody I know does chainsaw carvings, but they're not great.
Right.
I would rather have a name that I at least am willing to put my name behind and say, yeah, this is somebody that I trust that can do the job. So, I'll remember that. And at least send them your way first. You get first dibs, and then you can pass them on.
I appreciate it. But
so that'd be good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we get all kinds of inquiries. These meetings.
I bet you do.
Yeah, we've done everything from golf ball carvings, little golf ball carvings, all the way up to chainsaw carvings and everything in between. We had somebody that did avocado pits, and you get questions about stuff that you're like, well, I've never thought about that, but let me dig into the people that I know and see if there's anybody out there that might know how to do that or what they need to do or answer the question or whatever. So constantly kind of staying on my toes, trying to make sure that I have resources that I can refer people to.
Right.
That's part of the fun of it, though.
I have a final question for you.
Yeah.
Regarding the international your experience on the International Woodcarvers Association. Out of all of the viewers, what are some demonstrators? What are some that stand out to you? Like, what are some of your favorites as far as just being maybe off the wall or kind of weird or what you weren't expecting, kind of a thing?
Oh, that's a tough one. We had a fan bird carver, which I don't know if people know what that is, but they have a certain way that they cut the wood and they slice it and then they feather it out and then they tie them all together so it looks like a bird. And
crazy.
When I booked this guy, I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to enjoy this or not, but it was really great. And I actually think Doug Linker did a video similar to the project that the guy did. So if anybody wants to check out Doug's page, you can go out and see what he did there. But that was one that I was surprised by, but was very fascinated about how and this guy, he was good, and I think it was German. So his English wasn't great, and those are the ones that kind of take me back. We've got another guy that's coming up that's in the United Kingdom. He's in Wales, and he's going to be talking about his carving journey. He's coming up, I think, in the middle of May, and just to hear these guys that they have no carvers around. They saw our videos, they wanted to pick it up. And, our videos have only, not ours, but ours as a community, have only been the only source of instruction that they've gotten. But yet these guys are so passionate about it. They're like, this is my escape. This guy that's coming up, he's a school teacher, right? He's actually like a principal. And he says, this is the thing that I escape to when I come home. And for me to hear that and know that, our meetings had something to do with some of that, not completely, but something to do with the fact that this guy in another country has picked up this art or this craft, and now he feels like this is how he escapes his everyday routine. It's pretty amazing. So we've had people, in Japan and several in the United Kingdom, some in Italy, some in France that have joined us, and it's cool to see how the outreach has been, or the fact that the internet has brought all these people together. Those are the kind of the ones that stick out. And I have my favorite carvers. I'm not going to call names, but there's some that I just love to see on because I love their style. I love what they do. They're mostly caricature carvers. I love your style. Love to have you on. Like I said, we've had you on 5 or 6 times, and I'll have you on every chance, that you'll come on. But it's just, sitting and watching somebody that's good at their craft is what thrills me. I mean, and a lot of these guys are kind of my carving heroes. So I look up to these guys. I've seen them in books and magazines and stuff, and I'm like, one day I want to be as good as that guy. And it kind of gives you something to shoot for. But as far as the meetings go, when I schedule these, I try to get a good variety. So I try to reach out to people, and social media has helped me do that. I try to reach out to people that is somebody that maybe we haven't had on, or they have a unique style that nobody's seen or don't see, or needs recognition because they do great work, but nobody has heard of them. And those are the people that we try to get on. And again, we've been very fortunate because we've had people like yourself, great carvers that have been willing to donate their time to come on and present. So that's been the most rewarding to me, is pulling community together, growing the community, and being able to spend time with people that, you wouldn't normally get to see in person, and do it through this platform. So it's been pretty neat. Yeah.
That's awesome. Blake, I appreciate you being willing to take your time and first of all, create the platform that you did, create the International Association of Woodcarvers kind of channel, and just being willing to keep it up and keep us informed and entertained, hosting it. I know it's no small feat. I understand that there's reaching out to people, coordinating it, getting the Zoom calls going, getting the editing going, all that, all that stuff. It's work, and appreciate you doing it.
Absolutely. And I'll just encourage people. We meet live on Zoom every Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Zoom number is 310-460-3575. And join us live when you can. If not, go out on YouTube. All of our videos are out there. So, Alec, I appreciate you having me on as well, and always look forward to talking to you, my friend, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Looking forward to it, man.
All right, buddy.
Talk to you.
Thanks.